Hello, and welcome to my presentation On Site to Online, Tools to Create a Dynamic Virtual Modern Architecture course. I'm Stephanie Travis, the Program Head and Associate Professor of the Interior Architecture Program at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. For a course that studies architecture, the shift to remote learning due to COVID has eliminated critical on-site lectures that allow students to experience buildings firsthand, the ability to feel materials, move through spaces, and connect with other users. This seismic change has prompted new pedagogy, methods, and techniques. The adaptation of in-person to online education has radically and quickly pushed for inventive teaching and learning possibilities, and really challenged this course to expand in new ways. The course, Concepts in Modern Architecture, is a hybrid between a history of modern architecture lecture and an interactive studio. Unlike traditional history courses that discuss many buildings per class, this course delves into 2 to 3 buildings per session, allowing the student to develop a deep understanding of the architectural concepts and ideas used. Students form a critical eye with which to analyze buildings and work on creative projects that enforce and communicate these ideas. They emerge with knowledge that speaks to historical references and innovative approaches to design, which ultimately guides them to be stronger designers. This presentation discusses my new IDEA methodology, which stands for Interaction, Define, Draw, Diagram, Engage, and Assess, and how it is used to create a dynamic and engaging virtual course that introduces students to the history of modern architecture while using studio-based work to reiterate concepts. Now online and synchronous, this course has been reimagined in a different environment, using a combination of technological and pedagogical tools. What has resulted is a strong learning experience with new ideas that engage the student, many of which will continue in the face-to-face classroom long after the pandemic is over. The course is organized into a 15-week semester with 8 core topics, from Topic 1, Bauhaus Beginnings, to Topic 8, Modern Women Architects. Each topic is allotted approximately 4 class sessions, typically 2 for content and 2 for review. The sessions are not referred to as lectures or discussions, as they do not fit standard academic categories. Instead, each class emphasizes interaction and active learning, creating a more varied academic environment. Research shows that students' attention span during a lecture is roughly 15 minutes. Attention and loss of retention in material then drops significantly. 70% of students remember the information in the first 10 minutes, while only 20% of students recall content in the last 10 minutes. These stats are for in-person learning. It is unknown what the data is for students attending class with no faculty or peers physically present and many more distractions. Students have a new sense of autonomy within this new learning platform, but without discipline, many will fade into the background or log off completely. To maintain a steady flow of participation, students are called upon throughout the course, and the class participation portion of the overall grade is increased. While there are challenges with student engagement, on the flip side, online learning can create strong independent learners, specifically if the content is presented in an engaging manner that provokes curiosity. Active learning, while always important, is crucial for online learning. And while this term is not new to academia, the idea behind it must be amplified for remote learning. Within any online platform, there are a number of resources to provide for different means of learning. This course, taught using Blackboard, includes visual presentations, video clips, breakout rooms of various sizes, and utilization of the whiteboard, survey tool, and chat. One of the stronger online tools, both for faculty and student, is the ability to annotate directly onto the visuals using the mouse or keypad. And that is being used, you can use thin or thick markers to draw and highlight, as well as shapes and colors to graphically communicate ideas directly on the slides. Ultimately, the goal for each session is to use a variety of active learning methods to keep the students attentive and engaged well beyond the 15-minute mark. The main difference between this course and a traditional history course is that the visual presentation slides are used to spark conversation and raise questions, rather than merely to teach historical facts. For example, in Topic 3, Less is More, image-based slides are presented to the students, who are encouraged to interject and or called upon to analyze architectural drawings before historical or explanatory content is given. This gives the students the opportunity to read the drawings with a critical eye and to share what they see. The students connect the content to their own experience, such as describing a space that provides a sense of enclosure, such as the curved wood wall in Mies van der Rohe's Tugendhat house, or to recall a space they visited that emphasizes movement as compared to the fluid circulation in the Barcelona pavilion. The student as user connection is continued within each topic. For example, in Topic 3, Machine for Living, students examine Le Corbusier's Ronchamp Chapel and discuss places of worship or spiritual spaces that they have visited and the emotions these bring up. In Topic 4, Organic Architecture, students share buildings they have experienced that have a strong indoor-outdoor connection and compare the ideas of Frank Lloyd Wright, who blurred the lines of interior and exterior. Along with required text, a course pack offers timely, relevant articles that encourage conversation, with topics such as ownership of significant buildings and controversial additions. What results is a spirited debate in the main room, later balanced with smaller, expanded conversations in the breakout rooms. And this breakout tool is great because the students can be divided up into the desired number of groups, either selected by the faculty or randomly assigned, and it allows for more intimate discussions. And the faculty can also drop into these rooms or allow the students to converse on their own. When the faculty ends the breakout, the students are filtered back into the main room. So the breakout rooms are used for each topic review. So for example, the students will be split up into, let's say, 5 different breakout rooms, and each breakout room will focus on a building that was discussed in the content portion of the class. So for California Modernism, the first breakout room will discuss the Schindler Chase House, the second breakout room, the Lovell Health House, the third breakout room, the Kaufman Residence, and so on. So when students return to the main room, they utilize the whiteboard to diagram main concepts of each building, and the students in the group lead parts of the discussion. Another lively option to break up the course is the survey, and that allows for immediate feedback on related topics. That leads into a pretty fun discussion. So the class really utilizes a varied methods of pedagogy in combination with these online tools to keep the students focused and engaged. Since active learning is not about memorizing, this course does not follow the prescribed history of architectural course model of retaining facts for a midterm or final. Instead, students are required to analyze buildings using a visual approach from each of the core topics. Learning facts is one process, learning to do something is another. In other words, what versus how. Merging these processes allows students to apply what they are learning in a visual way, which connects more to the discipline. This results in a creative project that requires an in-depth exploration of the building studied in class. Most importantly, students learn by doing. Beginning designers often struggle with this idea, since there are many ways to approach and define a concept, or partie, as referred to in architecture and design schools. The French word partie comes from parti pris, meaning decision taken. The partie is the basic scheme or concept for an architectural design and is often represented by a diagram. In an introductory course such as this, it is helpful to provide a methodical, consistent framework that can be followed throughout the course. As such, I define a concept by using a verb plus noun combination to create a spatial idea, such as shifting planes, overlapping circles, or interlocking forms. This approach focuses on an action, verb, that is seen in the architectural form, noun, which emphasizes the dynamic qualities of a building. Ultimately, it is up to the student whether they utilize the same approach in the future or move on to different methods for defining concepts. In this example, the students have defined these different concepts as curving plane, extruded grid, and nesting shapes. After defining the concept, students start the draw part of the methodology using selected photos from their research. This step is done by freehand. Straight edges and or tracing is not allowed. And while drawing from a photo is not equivalent to actually being there, it does allow the students to look closely at the building in order to draw it. Students are also warned not to draw from sketches found online, since sketches of a building are an interpretation and may have graphic elements that are not part of the building. For the drawing portion of the method, students use exercises from my book, Sketching for Architecture and Interior Design, published by Lawrence King. These provide a framework for understanding architectural ideas such as negative space, perspective, views, light, etc., as these exercises allow for a more studied approach. What drawing emphasizes is process, not perfection or finality. The core objective is that drawing is a tool for seeing that provides for in-depth analysis of the conceptual ideas in a building or interior. Lecturing about a building does not encourage the students to see the building. The sketching exercise utilized in this method reveals to the student how the defined concepts are executed as they start to see the verb plus noun combination in 3 dimensions. These ideas are summed up by the renowned British architect Peter Cook, who states, "A drawing should be an investigative device, a voyage of discovery, a series of glances into the future." Another tool useful in this process is model making by hand. Much like a freehand sketch, the process of making a model strengthens analysis and allows the student to view the building in a unique way. A study model, essentially a 3-dimensional sketch, is particularly useful in the study of scale and proportion, and since it is not a final model, most architectural details are eliminated. The next step is to diagram the ideas in the buildings examined. And so, while the drawing step of the methodology is about exploration, the diagramming portion is about interpretation. This takes the information gained through sketching and visually translates and communicates what is learned. As a diagram can take on varied meanings, I rely on the clarity of a description provided by Francis D.K. Cheng, who states, "The hallmark of a diagram is its ability to simplify a complex notion into essential elements and relationships by a process of elimination and reduction." As with drawing, diagramming is process-oriented, meaning it is the act of creating and implementing the drawing that is significant, not the end result. For example, the concept, verb plus noun, of a building could be connecting segments, while other relevant ideas such as circulation, curving plane, modular addition, or elevated planes are also identified as critical to the work. Diagrams representing each are created using varied line types, line weights, grayscales, and/or colors to visually communicate these 3-dimensional ideas into abstract yet communicative drawings. The drawings are created by freehand to further emphasize process by using pencil, pen, and/or markers, and the ideations evoke a human quality. Watercolor, collaging, and other creative techniques are also encouraged. As students apply their findings, their research from drawing, to the diagrams, they're able to solidify the concept and intentions in the work. This reiterates what is learned and pushes the student to explain their results in a creative way. These are diagrams of the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in Washington, D.C., with the concept nested circles and other important ideas such as offset axes, transparency, and shadow studies. After the content for a topic has been covered through active learning and the defined draw diagram method for the topic is complete, the students engage in sharing their analysis with their peers. Instead of submitting to the professor, students are required to submit through an online sharing platform, which allows all students to review each other's work, and they provide peer reviews using a rubric. Submitting their work to the class takes the emphasis away from the faculty-to-student relationship while encouraging the student-to-student synergy. Throughout this process, students learn that their opinion is worthwhile, which gives them more confidence in providing strong feedback. They also gain understanding about what a rubric is and how it can assist in the assessment process. The last part of the methodology is assess. This is very important for students to look back on their work that they've done in the course and what they've shared and assess. The peer reviews are collected and shared in breakout sessions. Back in the main room, students present part of their work and also switch diagrams with a peer to present their peer's work. This exercise builds architectural vocabulary, communication skills, and provides practice reading diagrams. Prior to the conclusion of a course topic, students will do a quick write during a class session, summarizing the main concepts, ideas of the topic, and the case studies. Students are then selected to share their topic summaries. The students are able to not only assess their work, but also their peers' work through these exercises, as the same building elicits a different response from each student. Through this peer review and assessment, the core principles of modern architecture are explored in an original way that engages the student and gives them the tools to think critically. Despite the move online, Concepts in Modern Architecture remains a highly interactive course, as each topic is explored through a number of active learning exercises that utilize varied online tools. Students learn by doing instead of memorizing. The 8 topic case studies explore ideas by identification of the verb plus noun concept, drawing as a tool for seeing, and diagramming as a means to communicate. Ultimately, this method for analyzing projects reiterates course content in a creative way and emphasizes and strengthens skills to be used in the students' own projects. While in-person interaction and building site visits are strong tools for learning about modern architecture, the IDEA method creates an online experience that meets the learning objectives for the course, keeps students engaged with the course content, and encourages conceptual thinking and in-depth exploration of ideas. The pandemic forced the shift from in-person to online, but the methods and tools learned throughout the process will not be forgotten when we step back on campus and into the classroom. Thank you so much, and feel free to email me with any comments or questions.